When America built the world's first nuclear bomb. That single explosion triggered a dangerous race, and today, 10 countries hold the code to build a nuclear bomb. Some helped each other, some stole from each other. China shocked the world by detonating its first atomic bomb at Lapru Lake. Then came an even bigger shock just 2.5 years later. China tested a hydrogen bomb. It was revealing nothing, hiding underground bomb-making facilities behind false walls and concealed elevators. Kennedy was assassinated before he could force the issue. His successor, Lyndon B. Johnson, was far more sympathetic toward Israel. By 1967, Israel is widely believed to have possessed a functional nuclear bomb. Confirmation came in 1986, when a technician named Mordecai Vanunu who had worked inside Israel's secret facility, so they did something no other country in history has done. They voluntarily dismantled every single one of their nuclear weapons. They destroyed all blueprints and melted down the uranium. South Africa remains the only nation to have built nuclear weapons and then willingly given. When America built the world's first nuclear bomb. That single explosion triggered a dangerous race, and today, 10 countries hold the code to build a nuclear bomb. Some helped each other, some stole from each other, but every single one relied on spies, deception, and secret deals. Today, we'll trace how these 10 nations, competing fiercely against one another, developed the most dangerous technology in human history. We'll also look at the countries that came dangerously close to joining the club, and those whose names may be next on the list. This story truly begins in Germany. In 1938, scientists discovered nuclear fission for the first time. They realized that by splitting atoms, they could trigger a chain reaction and release massive amounts of energy. This discovery shook the entire scientific community to its core. The very next year, Albert Einstein sent a warning to America. He told the US government that the Nazis could weaponize this new science. That warning set in motion the most expensive and secretive scientific operation in history, the Manhattan Project. It was a massive undertaking involving scientists from the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada. Together, they spent nearly 1% of their combined GDP on a single goal. They knew they were in a race against Germany, which was already working on its own nuclear program, though with very limited success. Germany surrendered in May 1945 without ever completing a bomb. Then, in July 1945, the world changed forever. American President Harry Truman, Joseph Stalin, and Winston Churchill were meeting at the Potsdam Conference, designing the post-World War II world order. In the middle of that meeting, Truman received a secret message. The Trinity test in New Mexico had been successful. America was now a nuclear power. Truman quietly informed Stalin. He expected shock. Instead, Stalin simply nodded and said he hoped America would make good use of it against Japan. What Truman didn't know was that Stalin already knew Soviet spies had infiltrated the Manhattan Project. Internally, Stalin was furious that the United States had made the bomb first. In August 1945, America dropped 2 nuclear bombs on Japan and ended World War II. But as the smoke cleared, a new race had already begun. The Soviet Union became the second country to join the nuclear club. They had begun their research as early as 1941, alerted by the sudden disappearance of American and British nuclear physics papers from academic journals. They understood immediately how the work had gone underground. After witnessing the devastation in Japan, the Soviet program shifted into full gear. They had stolen enormous amounts of data from the Americans. But there was a problem. They didn't fully trust it. They feared American double agents might have fed them false information. So they captured German scientists and used them to verify the stolen designs. They moved far faster than the West expected. In 1949, the Soviets detonated RDS-1 in Kazakhstan, shattering America's nuclear monopoly. The Cold War arms race was now officially underway. You might assume the third country was the United Kingdom after all. The British were America's closest allies and had already done significant groundwork through their own program, codenamed Tube Alloys. Under the Quebec Agreement, They had handed over all their research to America, with the understanding that technology would be shared between the two nations. But in 1946, America tore up that agreement. A new law cut off all nuclear information exchange. America wanted to keep its secrets to itself. Britain was stunned. The message was clear: if Britain wanted to remain a world power, it would have to go it alone. They still had the world's largest uranium supply and the scientific knowledge to use it. They moved quickly. In 1952, the UK detonated its first bomb off the coast of Australia. In an operation called Hurricane, Britain had joined the nuclear club. The bombs dropped on Japan were fission bombs. By the 1950s, scientists were working on something far more terrifying: thermonuclear weapons, also known as hydrogen bombs. Instead of splitting atoms, these weapons fused them together, releasing hundreds of times more energy than the Hiroshima bomb. Scientists like Oppenheimer pleaded with governments not to build them, warning that it would push humanity toward annihilation. President Truman ignored the warnings. In 1952, America tested dynamite, the first hydrogen bomb. The Soviets followed in 1955, and the British in 1957. Humanity's capacity for self-destruction had just increased 1,000-fold. Number 4. France. France was deeply humiliated during the Suez Crisis, feeling squeezed and sidelined by the superpowers. It decided it needed its own independent defense, a symbol of European sovereignty. America was firmly opposed. It tried hard to delay and discourage France. But President Charles de Gaulle stood firm, declaring that nuclear weapons were essential to French sovereignty. France sourced uranium from its African colonies Madagascar and Gabon and set its scientists to work, even while the country was still recovering from World War II. In 1960, France detonated its first nuclear bomb in the Sahara Desert of Algeria, in a test called Gerbois-Bou. The message to Washington was unmistakable: France no longer needed American military protection. The fifth country was China. China wanted a deterrent against the United States. Initially, the Soviet Union helped, viewing China as a fellow communist nation. But relations deteriorated rapidly when Soviet leader Khrushchev began criticizing Stalin's legacy and sought better ties with the West. Mao Zedong was outraged, accusing the Soviets of abandoning their revolutionary spirit. The two countries split, and the Soviets pulled all technical assistance from China. China was in the middle of a turbulent cultural revolution, yet it poured every available resource into its nuclear program. In 1964, China shocked the world by detonating its first atomic bomb at Lapru Lake. Then came an even bigger shock just 2.5 years later. China tested a hydrogen bomb. It was the fastest progression from a basic fission bomb to an advanced fusion bomb that any country had ever achieved. Israel is by far the most mysterious entry on this list. To this day, Israel has never officially confirmed that it possesses nuclear weapons. It maintains a policy of deliberate ambiguity. In the 1950s, Israel began secretly constructing a nuclear facility in the Negev desert, with assistance from France. American spy planes spotted the construction site. President John F. Kennedy was deeply troubled and demanded inspections. The Israelis stalled, revealing nothing, hiding underground bomb-making facilities behind false walls and concealed elevators. Kennedy was assassinated before he could force the issue. His successor, Lyndon B. Johnson, was far more sympathetic toward Israel. By 1967, Israel is widely believed to have possessed a functional nuclear bomb. Confirmation came in 1986, when a technician named Mordecai Vanunu, who had worked inside Israel's secret facility, smuggled out photographs and handed the story to a British newspaper. But before it could be published, Israel's intelligence service, the Mossad, moved in. A female agent posed as an American tourist in London, flirted with Vanunu, and convinced him to join her for a romantic weekend in Rome. The moment he arrived, he was drugged, kidnapped, and shipped back to Israel. He served 18 years in prison. His sacrifice confirmed to the world that Israel was, indeed, a nuclear power. At number 7 was India. India felt surrounded. It had lost a war to China in 1962, and on its other border, it faced a persistent and bitter rivalry with Pakistan. India launched a nuclear research program using a reactor supplied by Canada, publicly insisting it had no weapons ambitions. In 1974, India conducted a test in the desert, officially calling it a peaceful nuclear explosion. Codenamed Smiling Buddha, the world erupted. Canada and the United States imposed sanctions for the misuse of civilian technology. India paused for a time, but by the 1990s, it had officially weaponized its program. India declared a no-first-use policy, a pledge never to use nuclear weapons unless another country strikes India with them first. South Africa's is perhaps the most unique story of all. By the 1970s, the apartheid government was internationally isolated and despised for its racism, abandoned by the world. Looking at its borders, it saw enemies everywhere, as neighboring countries fell under communist influence. They decided they needed the ultimate insurance policy. With enormous uranium reserves at their disposal, they got to work. In 1979, an American satellite detected a mysterious double flash of light over the Indian Ocean near South African-controlled islands believed to have been a joint nuclear test with Israel. By 1980, South Africa had built 6 fully functional nuclear bombs. Then the world changed. The Soviet Union collapsed. The communist threat evaporated. The apartheid government knew its time was running out, and it was terrified of handing nuclear weapons to the incoming government led by Nelson Mandela. So, they did something no other country in history has done. They voluntarily dismantled every single one of their nuclear weapons. They destroyed all blueprints and melted down the uranium. South Africa remains the only nation to have built nuclear weapons and then willingly given them up. Pakistan is at number 9. After losing half the country to India in the 1971 war, Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto declared that even if Pakistanis had to eat grass, they would build their nuclear bomb. India could not be allowed to dominate. The hero of Pakistan's program was Abdul Qadir Khan, a metallurgist working at a uranium enrichment facility in the Netherlands. He created top-secret blueprints for centrifuges, memorized and copied the designs, and brought them back to Pakistan. China, eager to keep India in check, also provided crucial assistance. America knew exactly what Pakistan was doing, but it needed Pakistan's cooperation to fight the Soviets in Afghanistan, so it looked the other way. In 1998, just weeks after India conducted its own tests, Pakistan responded. It detonated 5 nuclear bombs inside a mountain range. The country celebrated. The playing field had been leveled. Unlike India, Pakistan does not maintain a no-first-use policy. If it believes it is losing a conventional war, it reserves the right to launch nuclear missiles. North Korea wanted nuclear weapons for the same reason every country on this list did: regime survival. The Kim family believed that without nuclear deterrent, America would eventually attack them. They initially accepted Soviet assistance for civilian energy, then disappeared into complete secrecy. They signed non-proliferation treaties, then broke them. In 2006, North Korea conducted its first underground nuclear test, a small explosion that some experts believed was a partial failure. But they kept going. In 2009 and 2013, they tested larger bombs. By 2017, they had tested a thermonuclear hydrogen bomb. Today, they possess intercontinental ballistic missiles theoretically capable of reaching the continental United States. North Korea is the only country to have withdrawn from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and gone on to build a nuclear bomb. So, these were the countries that have developed and stored dangerous nuclear weapons capable of massive human destruction. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you liked the video, make sure to subscribe to our channel Mr. Shazade, like the video, and share your valuable feedback in the comments. See you in the next video with another interesting topic. Take care, bye.